The chairman of the commission is speaking now. Let's take you live now to the Osuka song.
Stability of our country, if not redressed. In making these statutory remarks, the Commission does not take positions and indeed takes a judicial posture and will inquire into the facts and circumstances surrounding the conduct of the election on the 31st January 2019. With a high sense of urgency of the issues at stake and the very future of our Commonwealth, His Excellency the President has deemed it fit to establish the Commission, and the Commissioners and the Executive Secretary have within this shortest possible time put this machinery in motion. We will count on the cooperation of all and sundry for the ultimate objective of investigating the violence and related incidents surrounding the conduct of the elections on the 31st January 2019. As chairman, I seize the opportunity to assure anyone nurturing doubts about our work of our commitment to the truth and service to country. For Ghana must triumph above all in this exercise. I thank you, all of you, for coming.
The Commission shall proceed to invite Honorable Ambrose Derry to step forward to be sworn in to give his evidence. Yes, please.
Thank you.
What do you swear by, sir?
Of course.
I,
Ambrose Derry,
hereby swear, solemnly affirm,
hereby swear,
solemnly affirm,
that
the evidence I shall give
the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God. Please be reminded that by the oath you've taken, you've made a promise to speak the truth, and the failure to do so constitutes an offense for which you'll be liable to punishment.
That is so. That's it. Thank you. Chairman.
In line with the mandate of the Commission, the Commission would like to ask some questions pertaining to an incident as already indicated by the chairman. And we require oral evidence and any material evidence in your custody you'll be able to provide. You are the Minister for Interior, am I right?
That is so, Mr. Chairman.
Would you please describe the general mandate of your ministry to the Commission?
Mr. Chairman, the mandate of my ministry, the Ministry of the Interior, is to take care and ensure that the government policy in respect of the agencies which operate under the Ministry of the Interior, that the mandate, the government to promote peace and security within the country is met. That is my mandate. But I need to put it in context especially in respect of the Ghana Police Service. The Ghana Police Service is established by Article 200 of the 1992 Constitution, and under the Constitution, it does set perimeters. First, the mandate of the government. If you look at Article 200, Clause 3, it does say that the police shall be equipped and maintained to perform their traditional role of maintaining peace and order. And to put that in context as far as this government is concerned, it means that the government is supposed to equip and maintain it. And in the context of the manifesto of the MPP for election 2016, there were certain elements of this maintenance and equipment that were stated. First, that the security personnel must be properly trained. Second, properly resourced.
Sir, if
and
I
third,
may prompt you, your answers are being typed.
Oh,
so then we'll
okay.
be grateful if you can slow down a bit.
Oh, thank you. I thought they were being recorded as well. I'm sorry about that. Okay. So,
You can go
Council, may I know where I should start from? Resume.
Article 203, Clause 3. Sir.
Article 200, Clause 3.
That is so.
That is provided for that the police service shall be equipped and maintained to perform its traditional role of maintaining law and order. So I said that sets out the responsibility of the executive, which executive power is vested in the president, and I granted the privilege to be minister. That is our focus. The elements there, as contained in the manifesto for 2016 election of the MPP, is to make sure that security personnel are properly trained, properly resourced, and provided with incentives to work towards the peace and security of the country. It also further provides that the context, the status quo at the time of the manifesto was that Ghanaians did not feel safe. Ghanaians did not feel safe. And the MPP government was going to ensure that Ghanaians feel safe on the street, in their homes, and conducting their business generally. It is also important to state that it gave the context that the apparent insecurity was caused by a lack of enforcement of the existing laws, a selective enforcement where they were enforced, and executive interference with the police in their activities. Therefore, the manifesto set out that after properly resourcing, training, the NPP government would not interfere in the work of the Ghana Police Service. And Mr. Chairman, that is in consonance with Article 203, Clause 2. Article 203 is on the Inspector General of Police, where it gives the Inspector General of Police operational control and administration of the police service, subject only to the said article of the constituency, of the Constitution, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, and the directions of the Police Council. So that is my answer, putting in context what my role is. So my role is basically to deal with policy, but as far as the police are concerned, operational control and administration is vested in the police. And I do not interfere with that operational control.
Very well. Sir, so in simple terms, will it be right to say that you are the minister in charge of internal security?
Yes, I'm the minister in charge of internal security generally, yes.
Very well. Now, are you aware, as the minister of internal security, if I may put it that way, of reports of violence at La Bauleshi in the Ayawaso constituency, Ayawaso West Wogon constituency, on the 31st of January 2019 during the by-election?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The first piece of information I got about that was in the media, that there was an incident. And my relation, I called the IGP to confirm if it was true. And his response was, yes, there was an incident. It did not affect the 137 polling stations. And that the incident took place in a residence nearby. And the police CID had commenced investigations. It's important to add that he also said that things were under control and that he had issued a statement.
Now, more specifically, have you received reports about a shooting incident in the constituency during the by-election?
First, as I said, to the media, and second, confirmation on a telephone conversation by the IGP that had occurred. And then the very next day, on 1st February, the IGP was invited to appear before the Parliamentary Committee on Defense and Interior, and I was invited to be in attendance as the sector minister. And the IGP answered questions in respect of that. That is the extent to which I know. And subsequently, there was an administrative letter written saying that there's an ongoing investigation.
Are you also aware of a separate incident in which a member of parliament was assaulted within the same constituency on the day under reference?
Yes, I saw it on the TV, that the said member of parliament, Honorable Sam George, was hit by somebody on the screen.
And to be more specific, besides all these other sources of your information, have you received an after-action report from the police about the incidents?
Yes, after action report, namely that the investigation is ongoing and that a number of people were injured and that they had been sent to the hospital for treatment. But as I speak to you today, as far as I'm concerned, the investigation is still ongoing.
Would that mean that as we speak, you do not have a report, an official report of the investigation?
Beyond the report that was written by the police addressed to the minister indicating that there is this report and then there is an ongoing investigation, I do not remember any other report to me, no.
And you haven't as well seen a copy of the report referred to?
No, the report to me is to the effect that they are conducting investigations.
Very well.
The next thing I can say about the incident is that I also received a petition by a group of people who said their coalition of concern who went on the demonstration and handed over to me. That is what I know about this matter.
Would you be able to assure the commission that there is actually going to be a written report after the investigation?
Well, the procedure, as far as investigations are concerned, CID, is that when the investigations are concluded, they normally then they take statements, and those statements are sent to the Attorney General to make a determination as to whether there are any offenses that can be charged on that. That is not my remit.
Very well. Now, be in position to share with the commission the various security forces or units that were available on the given day in the constituency?
As far as was reported to me, and I do know that that will be hearsay, as far as was reported to me by the IGP who was in charge of the operations, I would say that there were police deployed and there were also officers of the Ghana Immigration Service also deployed at the 137 polling stations. So that is what I know, but I'm also informed that there was 1 or 2 that the fire tenders, which the fire service, which is under the Ministry of the Interior. So these are the tend to hold report, because the IGP does not account to me for operationality. Only tells me these administratively what has been done, what has been achieved, what the challenges are.
Very well. And has it come to your notice, either through the IGP or any other sources, that there were other agencies, not from your unit, present within the constituency?
Yes, I first saw on TV a number of persons dressed up, in khaki, and some of them wearing masks, were armed, and as normally is the case, when I get any report, the reports are either simply oral through the phone, sometimes photographs and videos. So when I got the video, I forwarded it to the IGP, and he says, these are not part of my men.
So then, if I understand you, you are confirming to the commission that the masked men wielding guns who were reported to be within the constituencies are not under your agency, I mean your ministry.
as far as the reports from the IGP goes, they were not part of the persons that he deployed on the day, and therefore they are not his men. Actually, the investigation is ongoing now, and they are taking statements. I would only get to know at the end of it what has happened. But the position of the IGP is that he did not deploy any armed personnel on the day, and that his personnel were deployed at the 137 police stations, at all the stations there was neither violence, no any other incident, let alone shooting incident. There was nothing like that.
Very well. Being the Minister for Interior, have you subsequently found out from any of your colleagues or the existing agencies as to who deployed these men and what unit they belong to?
Mr. Chairman, because of my training as a lawyer, I'm careful about these things. But you would excuse me to say that I later got information that there was an officer of the national security had said that they were security operatives. So, Mr. Chairman, I do give this as evidence of the fact that it was said. I do not give it as proof of the contents. But I was told that somebody at the national security said they were members of the private security. And from what I saw, they were wearing T-shirts that had NSC. That is what I know.
Has it come to your notice that on the day these said masked armed men were in police vehicles?
It had come to my notice on the video that they were in a vehicle that had the police logo. That was one of the reasons why I forwarded the video to the IGP, and he denied that that was not a police vehicle in use by the police. And he in fact told me, Minister, our vehicles have GP. What is the GP number? It is not our vehicle. That again is the information I have from the IGP.
So if the commission understands you, you are denying that the vehicle that had the police logo actually do not belong to the Ghana police. Is that it?
From the information given me by the IGP, it does not belong to the Ghana Police Service.
You may answer this if you have the answer. Has the IGP subsequently conducted any investigation as to how or where these masked men got that vehicle from and how it came to bear the police logo?
The IGP has not expressly told me, except that having said that they are investigating the incident, I can only surmise that all those will be circumstances that will be investigated. Because certainly if those who were in the video were not police servicemen and were not under his operational control, it will be necessary for him in the course of the investigation by the CID to find out who did that. Because in the administrative report they said they went to the house and they went to the house, saw the people there, they provided security in the house after the incident until late night, among others. So I can only surmise, I believe it's just beyond a guess that in the investigation they would take statements from all those concerned. That is my belief.
Very well. So is it a case that until after the police investigation is completed, you wouldn't be able to tell the commission what actually caused the incidents in the constituency?
No, I will not know what caused it. It is the investigation is ongoing, and I will not want to prejudice or preempt the investigation.
Now, given the civil character of our elections and policing and security requirements, can you tell the commission the reason why these men had to be masked? That is, if you know. If you don't.
Well, they were not policemen, and I would not know why they were masked.
Very well.
What I do know is that the police, the information I have is that all the police personnel and the immigration personnel who were deployed that day were not masked and were not armed. So I would not know why they were masked.
Now, in the course of your early answer, you told the commission that you have been informed of an incident in a house. Could you please be specific as to which house?
My information was that it was the residence of the NDC candidate for the by-election. That is the information I have.
Now, within the purview of your work as the Interior Minister or Minister for Interior, could you please advise this commission whether national security, in fact, it's an information we are seeking, whether national security can raise parallel forces to that of the agencies under your ministry?
First of all, my understanding is that as far as the operations of the national security go, I believe that my colleague, the Minister for National Security, will be better placed to answer that.
Very well. Now, let's come specifically to the operations of the day. Now, we all do understand that we had different agencies operating on the day. Would you be able to tell this commission how these various agencies were coordinated? That is, if they were.
I will not be able. Let me say this. I've had the privilege of serving as a regional minister before under President Kufuor, and now I'm a minister again. When it comes to election activities, political appointees take a back seat. If you look at the security architecture of the country, at the district level, you have a district security committee, which is normally chaired by the DCE, it's a political appointee. At the region, you have the RESEC, which is chaired by the regional minister, and of course, the National Security Committee. When it comes to matters of election, those levels are chaired by the police commanders. Police commander at the district level, the regional police commander. And therefore, at the national, it's obviously the IGP who is the leader of all the operations. And therefore, those operational issues, beyond that, I have the assurance that nothing happened untoward as far as the men deployed by agencies under my ministry are concerned. I do not know the details. The IGP, who had a command and control of operational duty, would have those details.
Sir, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it not the case that the IGP reports directly to you as to the day-to-day operations of the police?
The IGP reports to me, administrator, insofar as it's not a matter of operation. And I think I have to make that clear. For instance, on a daily basis, I will call him and draw his attention. IGP, how is it? Is everything good? Everything's under control. I'll draw his attention to any reports that I've had of incidents that have come to me by phone call, through pictures or videos. And he will say, yes, I'm aware of this. We're investigating that. And all that I insist is what is the expectation, that he'll go by the rule of law, he'll respect the human rights of the people, and make sure that he doesn't lose the control of the situation. In certain instances, for instance, when we went to Agogo, where he thinks that there is something beyond the police service per se, he might then talk to me, and I'll, for instance, in that situation, I'll speak to the defense, Minister for Defense, and then Minister for Defense would talk to his security head, who is the CDS, and then they collaborate. Take it that we want to make sure that we provide the support without interfering in the activities. And that area that is sacred is the operational area. The power to arrest and not to arrest, to take statement, not to take statement, because we want them to be so independent that they can also even investigate us if that becomes the case. So if I interfere as a minister, it will not be right.
Very well. So then, will it be fair to suggest that as a minister, you wouldn't know chain of command as of the day, the headquarters of operations and all?
I did not know. The operational boss I know that I can talk to is the IGP. Those below him are under his control and he deals with them. I don't know who exactly were the polling stations, who they reported to, and what. Those are operational details that are within his remit. My demand is that it should be a peaceful exercise. And if he thinks that there are any events that are beyond his control and he needs support of other security or state agencies are coming there, but operational matters, the buck stays with him.
Very well. Now, you have indicated to the commission, even though all that the masked khaki men wielding guns are said to be national security operatives. Am I right?
That is so.
Very well. Now, in terms of security within the country, and I mean internal security, you have stated that you are in charge. Is that not the case?
That is so.
Is it therefore possible, as far as internal matters are concerned, for another agency to be seen to be doing what the agencies under your control ought to be doing?
Mr. Chairman, my understanding is that the Ministry of the National Security deals with intelligence matters. And I must add that they have personnel sometimes from other security who work within the national security and are responsible to them. I'm not aware that, well, I believe that policing is for the police. That is my position.
Very well said.
Policing is for the police.
Very well. Now, in the event of having different security agencies working together, who will be in charge of operation? Will it be the IGP or any other agency head?
If it is within the internal security, I expect the IGP to be in charge. And that is because the police is the leading internal security agency internally. So although you would have immigration officers who work with the police, the mandate of immigration officers has to deal with people who come in and go out of Ghana, and they are for border management. But the real leading institution for internal security is the police. And that's why even when there's a need for joint operations. The police are part of it. So we have, over the years, have Operation Cowleg, the police working with the military, Operation Calm Life, the police work with the military. Cowleg is the headsman. Then we have the anti-robbery, which is Calm Life, and the rest of them. And now we have Vanguard. In all these, as far as internal security is concerned, the leading security agency is the Ghana Police Service, as created under Article 200 of the 1992 Constitution.
Very well. Sir, in line with the last answer you have given to the commission, will it be wrong for me to suggest to you that it is wrong for the IGP to have informed you or stated anywhere that he did not know the masked men?
No. Why would it be wrong? Like I said, I had asked him a question. Look at this. I saw it on TV. Posted to him. There are people in a vehicle labeled police, and they are in fatigue, some masked. Are they part of your deployment or indeed of your service? He said no. Until it's proved otherwise, I'm convinced that what he told me is the case.
Sir, as a person who is supposed to take precedence when it comes to internal security, and I mean the IGP,
yes,
is he not supposed to have information on the ground as to the personnel available from even other units?
Well, he's supposed to have information on personnel available from other units operating under his command. But if you have people outside his command who come onto the scene, they are not under his command. And then there must be a subject of investigation, which is what is ongoing. So, yes. And besides, you need intelligence information. There's intelligence information that can tell us things that can make us proactive. But for me, he is responsible for those that are deployed under him, and he is responsible to ensure that any person working outside his remit that purports to do what is his duty, that action is taken. And I believe that the ongoing investigation must be what they would want to come out with, to see who were outside that. But for me, his answer was definite. They are not part of my deployment, and therefore they are not part of my command.
So then, if I got you right, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you are saying is that if there happen to be members of other units in an operation who do not come directly under the purview of the IGP, and members of these units, for want of a better language, are misbehaving, the IGP on the day cannot do anything until after an investigation? Is that what you're saying?
No, don't get me wrong. Let me correct you.
Very well.
The IGP, from the time of the incident, the airport police station got a report of the incident at 8:30 in the morning, and they started doing something about it. They went to the scene. I think, as I told you somewhere along the line, they went to the scene, they met the candidate, they ensured that they secured the place, they ensured that there was no recurrence of any such incident after the earlier incident, and they're investigating that incident. So no, the IGP is not that helpless. I was only talking about responsibility and his remit. That is responsible for the people he has deployed. But as the head of the Ghana Police Service, it is his duty and obligation to make sure that breaches of the law are investigated, and that is what is ongoing as far as I know.
Very well, sir. Now, there have been various reports of political vigilantism or vigilante groups and their activities in the country. Are you aware?
I am aware, and the position of the government has been clear and consistent. Vigilantism is illegal and must be dealt with. It is not just lip service. I can tell you that there have been instances like in Gulu, in the Upper West region, and in Karga, in the northern region, where there were acts of vigilantism involving constituency chairman of the MPP. They were arrested and detained, and investigations ongoing. You also recall that in the case of the Delta, there were arrests, there were prosecutions, there were convictions, and there were fines. It's another thing that probably I would have wished that the fines were more severe. But I think that it is fair to put in context that the vigilantism, the acts of assault, we know by the Courts Act, is a misdemeanor, and the Courts Act actually encourages amicable settlements of such events. But because of government's position on vigilantism, we have refused to take that option, which is available under the law for amicable settlement, and insisted that we go on with enforcement of this. For instance, 2 days ago, after the president announced capitals of 2 regions in the north, there was vandalism in Salaga. Overnight, by yesterday morning, we arrested 7 people. It's ongoing, and that's regardless of who you are. So our position as far as vigilantism is concerned is clear, it's illegal, and must be stopped.
Very well, sir. Besides arrest, conviction, and fines, that is after incidents, what specifically has your ministry done to deal with the vigilantism situation? We need specific here, if available.
Yes, first of all, ours is to make sure we enforce the law. So if the law is breached, we enforce it. But at the same time, we also are engaging other stakeholders in how we can tackle this matter. A number of times, we've made it clear that there is responsibility for security is a collective one. But we must be careful that we don't shift away from our focus. Our focus is enforcement, and we would have to concentrate on the enforcement. We will work with other institutions such as the NCCE, which will deal with the education part of it. But for us, our focus must be that if you breach the laws of the country, the laws must be enforced, and must not be enforced selectively, but must be enforced. And therefore, our major focus is on enforcing the law. And we will not want to divert. Having said that, we know that there's a need for education. Mr. Chairman, permit me to say that what we call political or whatever vigilantism has been in our history. I was growing up as a child, and those days, even before I was born, there were things about action troopers and action groupers, and that has caused on this government has decided that it must put an end to it, and we are committed to doing that. So, yes, we would fight, but we know that we need the support of every citizen to achieve that.
Now, are you aware of reports within the country that most of the so-called vigilante groupings have political associations, as in connected to the major political parties?
Yes. Yes. And that's why I told you, when I gave the example of the people we arrested in Gulu and Karaga, I told you clearly that in both cases, we had a constituency chairman of MPP involved, but it did not stop us from saying. The message is out there that they are illegal. Mr. Chairman, let me put this in context. The security agencies, or those that are mandated by law to perform as security agencies, such as the police by constitution and an act, and the President Service Army. That's one. The next are a group of private security organizations that are licensed by the Minister for the Interior. Any other group outside that purports to act as a security institution or security official and seeks to enforce the law is illegal. Except to say that as part of the strategy to ensure security, you would find in our manifesto, and has been there for some time, that when it comes to neighborhood communities, but those are organized under the police. So yes, if you have illegal people who are not mandated by law taking the law into their own hands and acting, they are wrong. But may I say, Mr. Chairman, that actually when people decide to lynch others, they are acting as vigilantes. They instead of reporting to the appropriate agencies of the law, they take the law into their own hands. They play the policeman and play the judge, and maybe play the prosecutor or lawyer, as you are saying, sentence the person, and all those are illegal and unacceptable, and they must be condemned. And we intend to fight that.
Mr. Minister.
Yes.
Have you got any specific plan for disbanding these politically connected and other vigilante groups?
Yes. As I speak to you today, I expect the IGP, we've got a strategy, and we're going out. But I don't, using the word banned or disband, raise a legal issue as to whether they had an existence in the first place. I want us to consider them as illegal organizations straight away. To disband would suggest that maybe you had a legal existence, and we have to be careful. Mr. Chairman, let me share this experience as a practicing lawyer. Before I came to Parliament, I was in my law office at Dabraka when a client of mine came to make a complaint that at Ashama he was putting up a filling station, and that the chairman of the MPP at the time was making it impossible for him to continue with the project, and that he had gone to the police station at Ashama on 3 occasions and reported, and the police took no action. And I said, how did you report? He said, oh, I go and tell them that he's the MPP chairman. And I said, you need to decouple politics from criminality. Go back the next day, get the name of the man and report. He went back the next day and reported, and the man was arrested. Now, I am very allergic to us trying to, as it were, qualify illegality. Assault is assault. It's an offense. And I'm happy that I have the professor of criminal law sitting on this matter. Assault is assault. Stealing is stealing. Robbery is robbery. We don't have political stealing and stealing. And so for me, when we introduce that concept of political vigilantism, we by implication give a certain, we make it nobler than it should sound. An assault is an assault. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no political party that has it in its manifesto of such organizations as part of its structure. So as far as I am concerned, they are illegal groups. And the fact that they come under any purported political color or not is unacceptable. And I do know that as I speak to you in the next few days, you would come to see that the police are coming out with specific strategies to deal with it, to the extent that if the police are invited to a gathering, they go there and see any other security institution that purports to act there, and it's not, as you said in this case, that under the police, they will be dealt with. I can assure you that going forward, that strategy will come to the fore. We are prepared to deal with it. holistically.
Sir, are you also aware that members of these so-called vigilante groupings might have had some sort of paramilitary training?
I am not aware that as a rule, those might have had military training. Of course, I cannot say if some of them are retired personnel of one service or the other. I can see what you're talking about. It makes it dangerous. But one of the reasons why we are not joking with it is that Boko Haram started as a vigilante group, and we would not want our democracy to be jeopardized by such things. And that is why the police are going to work, and I expect all Ghanaians to see the need for us to work. Mr. Chairman, let me say the frustration of the police sometimes is because you have complainants not coming forward to help in the prosecutions. Because there's this general feeling of Ghanaians that we are one and we are whatever. And so they want to talk it. Mr. Chairman, regrettably, that's the kind of attitude we have when it even comes to more serious criminal offenses, including defilement, that people will want to, as it were, amicably settle those things. Offenses should not be amicably settled. And if we think that what we have now is a simple assault, I'm saying that the history of Boko Haram should warn us that what can ultimately be, if we do not check it and nip it in the bud now, should let us know that we are not dealing with a simple assault case, but has the potential of getting worse and giving us problems.
Mr. Minister, having admitted the possible danger these vigilante groups pose to us, would you be able to tell the Commission any specific plans you have to reintegrate members after, for want of a better word, outlawing these groupings so that they will no longer pose danger to society?
Well, that's a very interesting question. That when they commit an offense and then we stop them, we have to rehabilitate them. I don't know how. I believe that a related matter is this: that unemployment is what makes people vulnerable and to be used in illegal activity. My own information is that if you really investigate, you sometimes find that these so-called vigilantes have the same people, acting regardless of the political side. So I believe that the president's agenda to actually provide jobs, in my view, is one constructive way of making sure that this vulnerable group of people who are not employed is reduced towards elimination. So to that extent, creation of jobs will reduce that army of vulnerable people who will jump at any opportunity to want to go and engage in illegality. But I would not want as a strategy to say that the police, in stamping out that illegality, should have it to, as it were, get them employed. It will look like we are taking up a responsibility that might also actually perpetuate it. Because if I am going to say that after I've gotten you convicted and you come out of it and I get you a job, then many more people would go and hope that when they get convicted, they will reward the jobs afterwards. But having said that, I'm prepared to admit that the fact that people are unemployed makes them vulnerable to be used by others. And the point I try to make clear as I get along, and the professor would see with me, is that I've been telling people that criminal liability is not vicarious, it's personal. So if you are sent by somebody to go and commit an offense, you would go to prison alone, or you face the music alone. I can only hope that as a nation we might do something about the sentencing that will make it more punitive and a deterrent. That is my personal opinion about it.
Mr. Chairman, your witness.
So that's the first public hearing of the Commission of Inquiry set up to investigate or look into the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election violence, and it's happening now at the Osu Castle in Accra. Let's take you back there.
Few questions for you. You talked about your relationship with the IGP as being administrative oversight, and that you do not interfere in operational matters, which is correct. But does this mean that before any major event that would require policing, that you do not have any specific briefing as to the adequacy of arrangements that have been made?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I've said that the relationship administrator is informative. They would give me, the IGP will give me an assurance that this event coming, we are prepared and we would handle it. That one, to that extent, yes, they will tell me that. They don't go into the details of how many people they are going to deploy and what have you. Yes, but they give me the assurance that this is under control. And like I said, I also said that on a daily basis, when I call the IGP, I ask him if things are okay and if things are under control, apart from also forwarding to him complaints that am I here. So yes, it includes the information and assurance that things are under control and will be taken care of. Yes, that it includes that.
Since you have political responsibility for internal security, do you think it would be wise to have a better idea of what they plan to do on any particular occasion, rather than just a general briefing of everything's under control, we have made plans and so on? Since you are going to answer for it in the end, don't you think you ought to know more about what they plan to do and to ask them questions so that if there's a problem, you would have an answer?
Well, to the extent that I want to know how adequate the preparations are, I ask questions like the Controller General also came to me and told me we're going to deploy early and everything. To that extent, I did not see where I see the need and where I think that there's something like an ask. But I believe that acting with the police for some time now, when they do tell me everything, well, is under control, we got the men, we're prepared, we're going to deploy early, blah, 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 I'm kind of convinced. Where I do not think or I suspect that there's anything, I do ask. But I'm careful not to cross the line.
May I suggest to you that in the future, you might want a more detailed briefing so that when there's a problem, you can at least say with confidence, this was how we prepared. If something has happened that we did not anticipate, we accept that. But to not know what they plan to do, you are not going to do it. And you just have political oversight. But I suggest to you it would be a good practice.
Yes, I agree. It will be a good practice, and I'll try and keep knowing as much as I can without interfering. Yes, I recognize that. Thank you.
Now, you said that you discovered from your questioning of the IGP and so on that there were some agencies also providing election security which were not under your ministry. What have you done in political terms to raise any such matters with your political counterparts?
Honorable Chairman, I did not say that I knew of other institutions conducting electoral duties apart from the police. No. There wasn't that sort of thing. There was an incident. That incident was not part of the electoral duty. It wasn't. It wasn't part of the electoral duty. The electoral duties were carried out by the police and the immigration, and as I indicated, also firemen standing. But this was a specific incident in the house of the candidate. It was not related to the election operation. It was not. It was not related to election operation. And therefore, that is why I didn't feel that it deviated from the briefing that I got. The briefing that I got was personnel of the police and immigration were going to man the 137 polling stations. There was going to be a backup in case they needed. Those were in place. This incident just happened to be near, maybe not too far away from a police station, but it wasn't part of the patrol of the election, as far as I know it, this one. And we're investigating it based on that they were not part of the running and manning of the 137 polling stations, but there was an incident, and I believe that the appropriate institution will be able to give details as to why there was a pinpoint of a residence that was dealt with, but it didn't affect the whole electoral process. And I believe that when the electoral commissioner gave the report at the end of it, she made it clear that there was no such disturbance. So there were two distinct operations. There are two distinct operations, as far as I know, this far.
There may have been two distinct operations that coincided in a particular area. But having political responsibility for security and realizing that something had happened in a candidate's house, surely it was related to the election. Because if a candidate is hurt on election day, or killed for that matter, the candidate will not be able to take office even if he or she wins. So it was a responsibility of your ministry to ensure that the candidates were safe. And that's why I'm asking, when it came to your attention that some other agency had done this, did you take it up with your political counterparts?
Yes.
And if you did, what was the result?
First of all, let me address what you rightly talked about the safety of the candidate. When the incident was reported at the airport police station, officers of CID went to the house. They met the candidate, and they ensured that there was no recurrence of any incident for the rest of the day. They actually provided protection for the candidate until after 10 p.m., and the candidate has since shown appreciation for that. So to that extent, yes, we made sure the candidate was protected. Yes, I spoke to my colleague at the National Security, and I think that he will be the best person to give details of that. But suffice it to say that it was a specific operation based on information that they had. As far as my information goes, it was not related to the election per se. That is what my colleague told me. But since we were able to contain it, we ensured that the rest of the day was not disturbed and the candidate was protected. I believe that we did what you rightly saw to be my responsibility as far as that is concerned.
Thank you very much. The IGP reports to you. Now, there are people in an operation he has no control over because they report to somebody else. And you are his political boss. So if you don't give him the backing by taking up some of the political things yourself, it would be impossible for the IGP, whatever investigation they are conducting, when they have a report, they aren't going to be able to take it where it should go. And I am urging you to keep an eye on things and step up to the plate and take responsibility and also effective action when the reports come out, so that you will be able to deal with political bosses who cannot be brought to book by the IGP in his capacity as a head of an agency. Now, you talked about, and I quite agree with you saying that if we call these things political vigilantism, we dignify it and make it a noble cause. And like all bad things in this country, we call bribes by fond names and we stop seeing them as bad. We call these things political vigilantism and we don't quite appreciate how bad. It is plain warlordism. And they are malicious. They are not political vigilantes. They are malicious. And so it gives me concern if you are responsible for internal security and they are malicious operating all over and they are private militias subject to some people's control. Those people are warlords. And if we don't take the matter in hand and confront it as such, and we take the position that when they commit an offense, then we will deal with it, I'm afraid you would have bred a dragon that you cannot control when things come to a head. You talked about the fact that the police can deal with the people if they go and meet them at a function while they are on policing duty. But the way these militias operate, the police will not be able to do that. And I suggest to you that we need better strategy. I don't know what strategy you've planned, but if your strategy is not to confront it as warlordism and also militia things, and we just want to look at it as a little civil disturbance, I'm afraid your strategy won't wash.
Thank you, Professor. Let me say that I assure you that I will stand behind the IGP, and I can assure you that I have the President's support as far as that is concerned. And also, I'm happy that you've taken what I've said to a higher level. I think that you presented it better than I did. When I said that, first of all, we shouldn't, glorify it. You agree, and I also linked it to Boko Haram. In view of that, the strategy going forward is that the IGP is going to move, and I have the support of the Minister for Defense that we are going to take it as far as it. So we expect that when we start implementing it, there might be need for firepower, and we're going to go all the way about it. That is for sure, because it's the link that most in the Ghanaian citizens do not see, and that's what we have to let them see, so that they will know that we should be on the same side against this menace. But they see it as a simple case of, assault, and when it's intra-party especially, the attitude is let's solve it. But we are saying no. We see it because of that nexus that we saw the history of Boko Haram that will deal with it. And so you put it better by making it a little. I agree with you, and we are going to go out there, and I have the support of Minister for Defense that we will have to deal with it drastically. This country cannot go down the wrong way, and we will not jeopardize our accolade or our credentials as the icon of multi-party democracy in this area. So thank you for your better presentation of it. I think going forward, we also agree that this is actually warlordism. And once we do that, then parties will begin to dissociate themselves. They don't see the picture. I believe you see that because of your background. And I believe that your work here is going to impact and help in us eliminating that canker. Thank you.
Thank you. May I suggest also to you that even illegal organizations have an existence, and so they can be disbanded. They are illegal. They do not exist in law, but they can be brought apart by action. So if you take the view that because they do not exist in law, they do not exist, and so no action can be taken to tear them apart, it will be troublesome. They are illegal organizations, but they are organizations nevertheless, and they must be dismantled.
Yes, Professor, I agree with you, and that's what I go for. That they are illegal, and we should fight them. Dismantling them. It's just like a gang of armed robbers. What you do is go after them and deal with them. So yes, de facto we will deal with them. What I didn't want us to do is get involved in a legal argument as if there's an existence and non-existence. They are illegal. But the truth is that they exist in our, but just like a gang of thieves or armed robbers exist. That's the way I see them. And to that extent, yes. To dismantle them, yes. And I'd rather go for that action to dismantle, and that's what the IGP is going to talk about going forward. In the next few days, I believe we might begin to see the implementation of that strategy. We have to go after them and dismantle them conclusively and decisively.
May I suggest to you also, Honorable Minister, that the people behind those groups are abettors of criminality, and they must be dealt with.
Well, that is so. You know, we do not solve the problem when we deal with the underlings, and therefore this is a canker that we need to uproot from the roots. And that is why sometimes when we are dealing NACOP that is under my ministry, sometimes people think we should just pick the person who is holding the drag, but we want to wait and actually get to the source, because if we just pick that one alone, he's going to get another career. So I agree with you that we need to get to whoever is behind that. But one thing I can assure you is that this government would not countenance that, and we will not tolerate that. Thank you.
I have just concluded my lectures on abatement with the level 300 students. So they will be happy to hear that you intend to go after promoters of criminality as people who are engaged in crime themselves. It is not the people who are committing the assault, but those who sent them are also liable in law. And I hope you will comprehensively confront this matter of warlordism, or we all have a price to pay.
Thank you, Professor. I take your views very seriously.
Thank you.
And that is why we all must know that we should not use the vulnerable in society just by giving them a few CDs and making them to go and commit an offense. I take your viewpoint, and we would go forward having benefited from that. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, you indicated that these people in khaki uniform who were armed were there principally for the incident that took place at the house of the NDC parliamentary candidate. Is that correct?
That is so, by the information I got from our colleague. It was pinpointed. It wasn't part of the election. That is the information I got from them.
Are you saying that they did not take part in the supervision or conduct of the election?
No, as far as I'm concerned, no, they did not. They were not part of the group that was deployed, and they did not go to any polling station, in my view, to cause anything. That's the information I have.
Are you not aware that some of them were standing next to police officers at the polling station?
No, I'm aware that the house was close to one polling station. I'm not aware that they were standing next to policemen. I would not know. But if they were just standing there, I would not know. The important thing is that I do not know that as a fact.
Are you not also aware that one of these men interfered with a police officer at the police station, actually removed a police officer who was on duty at the police station?
At the police
Did
station?
you get, at the polling station, did you get that report?
No, I haven't gotten that report. I haven't gotten that report. What I know is that among the operation.
Apologies for that. You were just listening to Justice Emil Short. He is chairman of the Commission of Inquiry looking into the violence that characterized the Ayawaso by-election violence.